What is up, guys? In today's video, we're going to be watching this video from Paris about forgotten Fortnite features. It's always interesting to look back at some of these things, especially with Fortnite having such a long history at this point, like 7 years. There's so many little things that have been in the game for small periods of time that have definitely been forgotten. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like some more, comment down below a feature that you think has been forgotten by the Fortnite community, and Paris's channel will be linked down in the description below, so check him out.
Like any other game over its lifespan, Fortnite has seen many additions of varying quality. Some additions have been nothing but great for the game and very well received, while others are just better forgotten, which stresses the importance of quality control when it comes to adding features.
Quality control?
And it is because of these quality control standards that many features added to the game often end up abandoned. Well, some of these features don't even make it out of development before.
I feel like a lot of it also, he says like it's quality control, like maybe they don't put the most effort into things, but I feel like also it's more so like they just throw things at the wall and see what sticks. Like everything that's added or designed probably isn't meant to be there forever, and it's more of just we'll see what happens when we do this.
They are abandoned. These are 10 features that Fortnite abandoned. The first subset of abandoned features to discuss in Fortnite's history are the features that made it to the live game. Whether they were removed shortly after their addition to the game or long after making their debut, all of these features have one thing in common, which is that they were in the game at one point. And the first of these features are the in-game leaderboards.
This is actually a big one.
The in-game
I did not expect this to be on here. I was thinking more like items and mechanics, but as the in-game leaderboard sounds, it was just like wins, and you could view it by game mode, and then it was also split by platform. And this is actually how I initially grew my YouTube channel, was because I was like always consistently high on the solo leaderboards for Xbox, and you know, people wanted to most watch streamers on the platform that they play on. And so that got me a lot of attention, because that is how, like, something that people really cared about back in the day. Like nowadays, if this was a thing, nobody really cares. But in the first few seasons, if you were high up there, like, you were getting attention because of that.
Leaderboards are first added in an unnamed patch on October 15, 2017, back in the preseason era of Fortnite.
And they would reset every season as well.
In the blog post that came alongside the patch, Epic Games shared their intentions with adding this feature. They stated that they wanted the leaderboards to be used for bragging rights purposes. They even added a separate section to the leaderboard that only tracks stats of you and your friends to further drum up competition. The leaderboard tracked top 25, top 10,
on here?
and top 3 finishes.
This is a PC, so I want to be on there.
As well as wins. It tracked these statistics in all available game modes as well, which of course were solos, duos, and squads. And in later updates, separate playlist tracking for LTM modes and trios would also be added. However, the strangest of all with the leaderboard feature was the score section. Score could be a standalone feature on this list of
I have no idea what that is.
abandoned features, as during its entire time as a trackable metric in-game, it remained extremely vague on what it actually meant.
Is it just XP?
Most concluded scores likely accumulated through in-game actions, such as opening chests and killing players, as typically, the more playtime you had, the higher your score was. However, the efficacy of the in-game leaderboards as a benchmark of skill would fade quickly. Not long after Fortnite's surge in popularity, many third-party apps such as TRN and BlitzGG would pop up. These third-party services had
TRN is Fortnite Tracker.
much more precise tracking than Fortnite's leaderboards, and also provided many other metrics such as eliminations, best games, and win streaks. So early on, the best
Ninja actually had the most wins and kills at one point in time, when he was like kind of considered to be the best player in the world.
players in the game would turn to these third-party websites exclusively to track their stats. And by the time the game's first official competitive tournaments began to crop up, the in-game leaderboards were all but dead. Despite it being basically useless, the in-game leaderboards stuck around for a long time, until it was quietly shelved sometime in the past year. In July of 2020...
So I feel like this really isn't, I mean, I guess it is a forgotten feature, but like, I feel like it's not forgotten in the sense that like Epic did it and it failed. I feel like it just kind of ran its course. Like, over time, third-party sites became better at that, and that kind of became the de facto thing that people used. But also, people cared less and less about it. Like in the early days, if you got a lot of wins, that was impressive. But after a few seasons, like, lots of people had lots of wins. And then also people kind of learned and caught on that like just winning itself isn't that impressive because you could just hide all game and then end up winning that way. Like people started to care more about getting high kill games and stuff like that more so than just getting wins.
23, Epic Games debuted the Fortnite Leaderboard Discord bot, which allowed you to generate nifty little charts
I think this is cool though.
comparing your stats to those of your Discord friends. Bundle this with the unanimous community use of third-party websites and it makes sense. However, strangest of all is that 99% of my viewers aren't subscribed to my channel, but you could change that by liking and subscribing.
This is good, by the way. Like, people always say that, like, this many people don't sub, y'all need to sub, but, like, having a lot of your watch time come from not subbed means your channel and your content is getting put in front of new users. Like, this would be better than the inverse of that. Because if it was 99% subbed and 1% not subbed, new people aren't seeing the content.
If you so wish.
But
The
it's up to
actual
this channel.
strangest thing of all, though, was that the aforementioned score metric is still tracked on third-party websites to this day. It is safe to conclude that nobody has ever used score as a benchmark of skill, but I guess it's pretty cool that it's still there. Now let's briefly pivot to more competitive-oriented features and talk about pins. Pins were
Okay, this is also something I did not expect. It used to just be like a participation in the cup. Like if you got enough points, you got the pin, but they didn't do anything and nobody knows how to see them. Bro, they actually made pins in real life. Hold up. I got one. Bro, I thought this was mad funny when I saw this. But they made FNCS pens at the LAN that you could buy. But yeah, this was just a strange thing that I feel like is a forgotten feature and like a canceled feature. Like they probably had something in mind with these pens and it just kind of went nowhere. But I remember when cups first came out, people would be like, yeah, I got the pen. But if I remember correctly, the point threshold to get it was like very low. Like it was basically like if you played all your matches, you would get it.
the very first form of an award given out to those that placed highly in open tournaments. On October 15, 2018, Epic Games announced the addition of the game's very first open tournaments hosted in the Events tab. That month, and throughout the rest of the year, tournaments with varying formats would be hosted in all different game modes, and those who performed well in said tournaments were rewarded with a quote, shiny pin. At the time of their release, Epic never stated what these would do, or if they
Bro, he's got a heck of my old teammates in here. They had Bizzle and Aiden, both of which were in Ghost. Not
had
when I
any
was there, though.
future relevance. They couldn't even be used to show off either, as nowhere on your career profile did they display.
Okay, yeah, I think that says 20. Like, you needed 20 points to get it. But, yeah, like he just said, there was nowhere to view them, and they didn't do anything, and everyone was just kind of confused about it.
Funnily enough, third-party websites such as Fortnite Tracker were the only way for players to really prove to others that they got enough points to get the pin. And it seemed like Epic agreed that this feature was a dud from the start, as not long after the start of these tournaments, pins were scrapped as a reward. Epic Games instead pivoted to the use of cosmetics, qualifications to other tournaments, and money as rewards for placing well. These days, pins are mostly memed on for being that one useless thing OG competitive players got for placing well. It's pretty sad considering what pins could have been. Imagine they could have been displayed in your profile on the Friends tab or something to show that you were a good
Bro, there'd be so many, though.
player. Just food for thought. Keeping up with the topic of competitive, there are the official Epic hosted scrims. In April of 2021,
I was about to say I have no idea this happened, but I wasn't playing the game then.
Epic Games decided to trial an official scrims playlist on EU servers only. The way it worked was that there were two separate playlists. The Aura Scrims playlist for anyone who placed within the top 500 of the previous season's FNCS series points, and Open Scrims, which are open to all players above Division 3 in Arena mode, so basically everyone in the game. Those who performed well in Opens would get invites to Aura Scrims, and to really nobody's surprise, the Scrims
I'm seriously disappointed by the Fortnite community today, not surprised or shocked by any means. The community has been so split with financial incentives, or spoiled with financial incentives, that the majority of the community can't play the game for practice or fun and just key these scrims. Yeah, that's kind of how it is. A lot of the actual stacked discords, like, it's hard to get in, and I think the rules are done very strictly.
quickly devolved
Because if people just, like, the problem is if people play too aggro and key, then the lobby is too dead, and then there's not, like, really an endgame. And that's also not how people would play in a stacked tournament. but also if the lobby's dead and there's no in-game, then it kind of ruins the practice. And it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, people key so the games are low quality, and then people are like, oh, these games are low quality, so they key, and then like it's just a problem that keeps facilitating itself.
Evolved into a W key fest and nobody took them seriously. They were a colossal failure from the start. But why? Well, first, there was no incentives whatsoever. The only incentive for these scrims was a promise of good practice. But good practice is only as good as the player base's willingness to believe in it. If nobody believes the practice is good, then they won't take it seriously. So with no incentives such as money, prestige, or cosmetics, nobody saw scrims as a viable avenue to improve at the game. Additionally, there was also the issue of accessibility. Open scrims were open to nearly every player, so a top 1000 player in EU who consistently makes tournament finals and someone's 5-year-old cousin that camps in bushes to farm arena points would be in the same lobby. With this in mind, what is stopping those sharks from keying the little Timmies who sit in bushes? Unfortunately, scrims have only proven to be successful with extremely strict moderation, which is the reason early NA scrims under the leadership of Zate were so successful.
And other games have this problem too. Like, it's not just Fortnite, but it's like harder in a game like Fortnite because it's Battle Royale. Like, you need 100 players in a lobby. But even in other games like Call of Duty, for example, it's 4-on-4. They'll have a hard time getting people to, like, every team in the league to, like, be serious about practice and everything.
Back in the day.
So I feel like it's just impossible for Fortnite.
Without strict moderation,
especially in like an open sense like this,
practice can't happen, and Epic seemed to quietly agree, quickly shelving the idea right after the first week of scrims took place, not really making a statement as to why. And that is just a sad truth about Fortnite. While it would be nice to have a good rank system, it is simply impossible to do with a game as skillfully diverse as Fortnite. Scrims weren't the only game mode to be abandoned though, as there were also the various LTMs throughout Fortnite's history. LTMs date as far back as
LTMs are meant to be limited though.
2017.
Maybe he means okay, I get it.
Of the 50v50 LTM, and very quickly, 50v50 was a huge success among the player base. People enjoyed the more laid-back nature of 50v50, and Epic took note. From this point onward, Epic would release new alternative playlists every single week. Many of Fortnite's most beloved experiences came from these LTMs, such as Solid.
I was never really a fan of LTMs, but there definitely were people that were. My favorite was probably Solid Gold, which is gold weapons only, and then Blitz as well, which was just like the zone moves faster, so the game played out faster. Was really fun. And then there was also Unvolted, which would have like old weapons and stuff. Those were probably my 3 favorites, but some of them were like really crazy.
Solid Gold, one
like explosives only, snipers only.
Shot, and the floor is lava. Some of these LTMs would later go on to revolutionize the game, such as the Siphon LTM, which greatly popularized the idea of being rewarded for getting kills. However, around some time in 2021, the once weekly rotation of LTMs we were used to became less and less, and as time progressed, we just got no LTMs at all. As for what the culprit is, it is likely creative mode in the addition of UEFN. With the tools provided by UEFN, players could simply make their own LTM style playlists and Epic.
So yeah, this isn't about one specific mode. It's like the concept of LTMs kind of going away. And I feel like, kind of like he's saying, with creative offering all these different alternative game styles, and then there also just being like 50,000 game modes in your face every time you load up Fortnite, I feel like the LTMs would just be very lost. We did have the Midas Floor is Lava in Chapter 5, and I don't know if there's any other LTMs during Chapter 5. I was surprised they didn't do an Avatar LTM with just like only the Avatar items. I feel like that would have been really dope during that season. But yeah, I feel like LTMs are just kind of unnecessary at this point. And then also, I would imagine they have very little player retention. Like, I would expect an LTM to come out, and then it's maybe popular for a day or two, and then the player base just goes down over time. We didn't have player counts where you could like view it back then though, when they were like consistently doing them.
Outsourcing this work to the community, UEFN was clearly a more profitable venture for Epic, and having LTMs in the game would only divert players away from it, so Epic quietly shelved LTMs for this reason. Now let's talk about some broken gameplay features.
There was the Doom LTM, you're right.
First of which being Friendly Fire.
I was a victim of this a lot in the early days. My friend Maddie and F used to just team kill me in every fight with an RPG.
Back in the earliest days of Fortnite, Friendly Fire was turned on. However, due to a variety of reasons such as trolling and shoddy discretion of griefing reports, it was disabled in patch 2.2 on January 18, 2018. Epic initially said the change was experimental and subject to change, but it seemed players enjoyed the game without friendly fire as it never returned. It would be interesting to see how the game would be with friendly fire.
Did they bring it back in the Season 1 game mode?
On today though, since the skill gap has progressed so much. With how problematic spraying is in competitive trios, experimenting with friendly fire could be a way to potentially alleviate that. But one feature that should never come back to competitive is traps.
Yes, I'm a trap hater.
Traps have had a long history in Fortnite, with the game initially releasing with many different kinds such as the wall dynamo and ceiling zapper. However, they were removed with the launch of Season 2, likely to cut down on bloat. They were simply...
So there used to be like a bunch of different traps, like there was one for floor, there was one for wall, there was one for ceiling. They just made it to where the spike trap did all of that, and it was a lot more just convenient. But the spike trap itself was really OP. It had different damage different times throughout the course of the game. But I think for a lot of it, it was either 125 or 150. And you just look at a wall, put it down, and then it hits that hard. And you guys know how inconsistent the shotguns can be in Fortnite. So like... someone using a shotgun has to hit a good shot and time that well. Someone using a trap has to look at a wall and hit the button. Like, it was just so cringe, and a lot of people would just be spamming them out, like, constantly over the course of a build fight.
Too many different kinds of traps in the game.
Like, basically, he just put the trap on the ground there and then broke the stairs, and the player falls into it.
All did the same
150.
thing.
And, like, Martaz is obviously, like, an insane player. I think that's who this was. But the skill requirement for traps was just very low.
The classic damage trap most of us know, they stayed in the game for a good while. Eventually, they were vaulted with the release of Chapter 2 Season 2.
I was so happy for this. Like, you know how every season there's that annoying thing? In Chapter 2 Season 1, the spike traps were that for me. Because, like, it had gotten to the point where everyone was, like, good with them. Or, like, good at piece control. And so, like, they were used more.
2. Epic Games never gave a reason as to why, but it's pretty easy to see why they did it. With how far the skill gap progressed, traps are no longer used as a means of securing buildings. Rather, traps were used to cheese box fights by spamming traps on any wall you owned. Damage traps severely inhibited skill expression in box fighting, so it was a good thing that they were vaulted. Finally, for broken features that were abandoned, there were shakedowns. Shakedowns were a mechanic...
I loved this. I was so happy that we got this back in Chapter 2 Remix.
First added in Chapter 2 Season 2. When used on a knocked player, a shakedown would reveal the locations of all their remaining teammates. While there was an inherent risk to shaking down as you needed to stand still for a few seconds to do so.
That was annoying when it would accidentally happen.
This was downright broken. In retrospect, it is crazy to think that shakedowns lasted as...
So I like the shakedowns because, one, it takes time to do it, like he said. But also, it punishes people for making bad plays. Like, if you push on your own and then... get eliminated. If they have time to shake you down, it's because you're pushing alone, you know? Like, I feel like it would mostly be useful in those situations. And early game, it was really nice, but a lot of it was just, like, players who weren't playing with their teammates would be punished. Or I guess their team would be punished as a result of that. But if you're playing off your teammates well, it's something that really wouldn't be that useful most of the time. Or at least would, like, create an opportunity for you to, like, punish the enemy for it. So I always really liked this, and I was really happy when they added it. They removed it before or kind of around the time I started playing the game again. I started playing in Chapter 2 Season 8 towards the end, so like mainly Chapter 3 Season 1.
As long as they did, not being removed until Chapter 3 Season 1, almost 2 years after they were added. With how overpowered the reveal medallion was back in Chapter 5 Season 4, it is safe to conclude that the removal of shakedown mechanic was a positive change.
I feel like they're not comparable, though. The medallion just scans everybody around you periodically, and then shakedowns is like if your teammate goes off and does their own thing and you're not there to like play off their timing, then like the enemy scan you.
So far, all of the features discussed were in the game at one point, but in Fortnite's history, plenty of features have never made it to the live game, only living on in League.
I bet I was, okay, never mind. I was going to say I was hoping he would talk about backpacks, but I see it on the
and concept
thing.
art. The first of these features is backpacks. Upon activation, a 3-second
These got clickbaited to like such an extreme degree in the early days. There was one, I think like this one was supposed to increase your backpack capacity so you can hold more items, but there's also like a storm tracker backpack I think that was leaked and like rumored. I don't think it ever came to the game, but people were clickbaiting it every single time there was an update.
second animation would play. Once finished, you would have extra inventory slots. Now, not much is known about exactly how this would function as the feature was entirely based off of a leak. However, assuming it would give you extra hotbar slots to hold more weapons or heals, it is safe to say this would break the game. The current 5-slot system we have now is part of what keeps the system in check. For example, if you wanted an AR...
I agree though, I'd rather not have this in the game. Maybe a medallion that gives you an extra inventory slot may be interesting, but I feel like the way the inventory is balanced, if the loot pool is good, it always feels like you're lacking something. Like you wish you had more heals, you wish you had more mobility, maybe you wish you had an SMG. Like you have to like make sacrifices, and I like that.
AR, shotgun, and sniper, you now have to decide whether or not your last 2 slots should go to heals exclusively or mobility. Having extra slots would break the game by allowing you to just have everything at your disposal.
I agree.
And would likely make heal-offs way more jarring than they already are. Next are charms. Charms were first added to the files around Chapter 2 Season 1, but have never
I feel like this might happen with us getting first person.
seen the light of day since, and in April of 2024, they were removed from the files altogether,
Oh, never mind.
which made some players disappointed. The reason I included charms in this list is that their addition almost seems like an upgraded version of the aforementioned pins feature that was shelved years prior.
It's something that's in a lot of games as well, like weapon charms.
The way I imagine charms, I could see them as a way to display your personal achievements on your weapons or character. For example, maybe you could get a
Like it'd be hanging off the gun.
one-of-a-kind charm for winning an FNCS that you could then display on your weapon or your profile. Just food for thought though. Finally, there are shouts.
What is this? They would allow players to produce a text bubble and shout above their head with a specific message. I never heard of this at all. I feel like this is kind of got added recently with that like text chat thing, but I legitimately have never heard of this.
Shouts were a form of cosmetic.
Bro, I thought we were about to go Skyrim, like the Elder Scrolls collab. We get dragon shouts.
First added to the files in Chapter 2 Season 2. From the bare bones footage we have from leakers, it seems that you would be able to write in a custom message to be displayed on the shout. While this was cool, I think most people see the problem with this. It is pretty self-explanatory why you
Yeah, we would all be using that in a toxic way. Mine would be saying dog, and then, yeah.
user-generated content is not something that many games adopt these days. While it's fine in a mature game like Team Fortress 2, it has no place in a kids game like Fortnite. I also imagine this would cause huge issues with competitive integrity. There would likely be no shortage of players using shouts to communicate thoughts with each other to potentially be friendly.
That's true. You'd have people making up their own language to like signal to each other, but also not get banned by Epic.
On rotates. Overall, Fortnite has had a rich history of removed features, bad and good, and while some removals of said features are disappointing, most have been for the better. Thanks for watching.
All right. History of Fortnite lawsuits. I want to watch that. History of Fortnite Christmas events. I don't know, maybe. But let me know what you guys think of these features. It definitely was different than what I expected. I feel like he tried to go outside the box and not talk about the common ones like Siphon. That's a big one that would be talked about in something like this. Arena mode. But I think this video is good and definitely talked about, like I said, some different things. Like the leaderboards being on here, the pens being on here was something that surprised me. But let me know what feature you think has been forgotten in Fortnite or a forgotten feature that you liked most. Mine would have to be Siphon. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more. Paris's channel will be linked down in the description below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.